Welcome back. In our first story, President John Mahama has ordered the Trade Ministry to address the 10% tariff recently imposed on Ghanaian exports by U.S. President Donald Trump. Speaking on PM Express Monday, Deputy Trade Minister Samson, he said the president considers the matter one of national importance and has given his full support for any strategic action needed to get the tariff scrapped. Mr. Ahi's remarks follows a high-level meeting with U.S. Ambassador to Ghana, Virginia Palmer. He says the fight will begin with AFTA's meeting next week.
We met with the U.S. Ambassador and her team to seek for clarifications, to seek for reasons for this sudden imposition of 10% tariffs on Ghana. So the meeting was held in a friendly environment, and so we sought to ask for explanation in regards to why the 10%. The ambassador tried to provide some explanations, and like we said, we all know that most African countries take advantage of AGUA to enter the U.S. market without paying tax, without paying any tariffs on the goods that are exported onto the U.S. market. And we all know that AGUA is supposed to come to an end September 2025, this year. But with the introduction of 10%, you can conclude that they have decided to end AGUA and not going to renew it anymore. So we asked, so with the slapping of the 10%, then what happens to AGUA? And they told us, one of the U.S. people who came told us that they were asked by last week to actually start assessment of countries as to which countries will be renewed to be allowed to continue with AGUA. But suddenly, they were not aware with this imposition, and so they themselves were also in the face. They didn't know the rationale for this tariffs. And so, in a nutshell, we've realized that the only way out is to continue the trade diplomacy, to continue to engage the U.S. authorities to ensure that, to see whether they can review it to do something about Ghana's 10% tariffs on our export onto the U.S. market. We also know that as Africans, we have agreed to fight this collectively. And so on the 14th of this month, AFTA is organizing a meeting with African trade ministers to look at this situation.
Well, there's a statement from the Foreign Affairs Ministry after yesterday's meeting with Virginia Palmer, the U.S. ambassador to Ghana. Here's what we know right now. And on that letterhead, we are well, we'll explore that letter later. We've been joined by the National President of the Ghana chapter of Borderless Alliance, a regional trade advocacy group working to promote seamless trade across West Africa. And we are discussing the 10% tariff. In your view, I'd like to know whether the directive by the President, John Dramani Mahama, is enough, or Ghana should pursue more pressure through multilateral bodies such as the ECOWAS or the AU.
Thank you. Good morning to you and to your listeners and your viewers, and thank you for the opportunity. I mean, look, there are two levels of this debate, the tariff debate. The first but before that, let us just first clarify that, as Your Excellency clarified, it's not a specific single action that is taken against a particular country. So the first level of the tariff debate is technical. And on the technical level, there is a particular occurrence that happened, and that is Ghana finds itself on the lower tariff bracket of 10%. Keep in mind that the 10% is the minimum tariff that some countries went up to 30, 40, 50%, African and North African countries. So it's not a specific country tariff. It's not a specific continent. It goes way beyond. Now, with regards to the tariff technical discussion, it's laudable by the president to defer the study and the assessment of the impact of the 10% to the Ministry of Trade, which will also give it more thought and do a more extensive impact assessment about the effect on jobs, the effect on the competitiveness of the countries, and then to solicit some policy recommendations on how to move away from this. Now, let us be clear about something. I think I heard somewhere something about scrapping, and it's not as simple as asking another country to rescind the decision, because it's a sovereign decision. And once it's there, you have to deal with it, but you have to engage on a non-technical level. And so this takes me to the next layer of the tariff debate, because this issue is not just about an increase in the cost of trade with the U.S., because effectively that is what the tariff means. Now you are 10% more disadvantaged when you are exporting into the U.S. So there is a non-technical aspect to this, because some countries are perceiving it as an indictment against the relationship between this country and the United States. And so, for example, keep in mind that Ghana was a main partner for the Partnership for Growth with the United States. Ghana has a joint collaboration agreement, a JCAP, on military and defense aspects. And then Ghana was member of the UNSC. So there is this perception that Ghana is an ally. So why did we end up there? And so there are these, a constructive criticism of the tariff has to do with the fact that there is a non-technical element in the realm of politics, and that countries need beyond solving the technicalities of the issue in order to determine the way forward. And looking into the future with regard to the 10%, keep in mind that the 10% might necessarily escalate, because other countries which were also affected by the new tariff imposition might decide to reciprocate. Keep in mind that China 2 days ago decided that they were going to slap an additional X% on U.S. tariffs. And then yesterday, the U.S. responded by threatening to add an additional layer of tariffs. So tariff wars are lose-lose situations. And in this case, reciprocality should be the last resort until we find out exactly what the impact assessment on our economy is, a full impact assessment, before deciding on what the policy recommendations are, before trying to look at what we can do moving forward.
Well, the after meeting is coming on next week, and I mean, the member countries are meeting to consider this and give a response. In your opinion, what should they be considering, and what should be the tone moving into this meeting and responding to the United States?
So here's the thing, and we're still in the non-technical aspects of the tariff debate, right? Because this tariff increase is just the latest sign of an external shock and an amplified effect on Africa. And this is our latest reminder that we need to build our resilience and sustainability in terms of trading and looking for diversification of our trade portfolio and to build the capacities and to connect ourselves to our other partners, namely our African partners. And so before answering directly to your question, I'm looking at the Ghana Statistical Report of the 2024 and looking at the comparison of the performance of trade of Ghana. And so if you look at the export of 2023 to Africa, we exported 38.6 billion cedis, and that is 20.8% of our export. In comparison, that same amount jumped to 59.5 billion to Africa in terms of export. So there's about 21 billion Ghana cedis of additional export into Africa. And there's an additional import from 17.9 billion in 2023 to 27.4 billion. That is a 10 billion of imports from Africa. So that means that the collective efforts of the African countries to trade more among themselves is reflecting positively in Ghana, both in terms of import and export.
Right.
And this is what we talk about, looking at boosting intra-African trade and looking at building the resilience of our collective power as Africans. We have the resources, we have the talents, we have the political will, but all it takes is to mobilize all of this and look at what are the real impediments to boosting our intra-African trade. And that brings us to the topic of the connectivity. Because if we connect to each other well, then we can provide ourselves alternatives to other external factors. And so in those cases, the more you trade with other allies, the less you have to worry about the effect of additional tariff increases or the response of some of your other traditional allies. So I'm a very pragmatic looking person when it comes to trade relationships. And I think we have to look at the tariff increases from that kind of pragmatic perspective. And we have to build a narrative that explains to our leaders that this is exactly why the AFCFTA is so important for Africa, is so important for countries like Ghana, so that we can identify markets across Africa, so that we can trade more among ourselves, and so that we can achieve these kinds of positive effects of trading more among ourselves. And I think this is the message that our leaders should carry to the next Council of Ministers meeting of the AFCFTA later this week, that we have received our latest wake-up call. Let us continue to work on removing the tariff barriers and the non-tariff barriers among ourselves, and let us enhance the connectivity between our countries before these tariff retaliations escalate and negatively affect us. We have a window of opportunity, so we have to use it.
Well, from what you've said so far and from my observation, it looks like you don't have the faith that U.S. is going to reverse the tariff, and that we have to look inward to find other alternatives in strengthening our trade between our regional or member countries.
I mean, look, it has been evident, it has been obvious since 6 months now that in case President Trump assumes office, you should expect a more inward-looking United States, one that cares more about its internal market than it does about its external markets. And so based on this, many countries have already built contingency plans to deal with the likeliness of a President Trump in office. And so if you're trying to divine whether the 10% might be scrapped later on, it is possible. I really think it's possible, but it's not because of, it won't be because of advocacy or lobbying or whatever. It is possible. It is simply possible, just as possible as a 10% on Ghana, which was, well, the tariffs were to be expected. Many countries have built it into their contingency plans. But the fact that it actually took place is telling of the fact that we are in a very uncertain global situation. The global WTO-based framework of international trade is no longer the norm, and that we should expect instability. And when there are times of instability, we should expect the unexpected, so to say. And so when this is the kind of situation that you find yourself in, you have to manage, and you have to try to see how to deal with it. But then when you look at how to deal with it, you have to look at how you can diversify and shift away with the flow. We can't just say that we will continue to stubbornly trade with the U.S. because it might be a situation where other partners' trade might become more appealing because of that 10%. So that's the opportunity. So let us look at this not as a challenge, but as an opportunity. And let us look at how to deal with this. And let us be smart about how we look at consider our policies and our trade relationships. Because trade is never static. Just as relationships are never static between countries.
Right.
Let us look at it positively, constructively. Let us adjust and build resilience into our country and its economic system.
Right. Ziad Hamwe, we're very grateful for your time here on our desk. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Now, moving on, the Western Regional Office of the National Security has uncovered a large cache of suspected stolen electrical materials in Kansarodo, a suburb of the Sekondi Takoradi metropolis. The operation, based on intelligence received, led to the discovery of the items hidden in a concealed location within an uncompleted building believed to be linked to the Electricity Company of Ghana. The hall included 46 cable drums, electrical switches, meter boxes, meter cases, iron angle bars, and various other valuable components typically associated with ECG infrastructure. Now let's engage Collins Adumaku-Mensah, MP Efija Kwabre North, former Deputy Minister of Energy. We're grateful for your time here on our desk, sir.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here with you.
Right, and so let me begin by asking, when you heard about these missing or found, equipment and the stash of electrical materials, what was your initial reaction?
Well, I was excited. My approach to this whole missing containers is that we allow the security agencies to do their job. We are yet to get full details whether it is part of those missing ones. But if it is, I'm excited because I've indicated earlier on that I'm prepared as a deputy ranking member on the Energy Committee of Parliament to give my minister and friend the full cooperation regarding this particular missing containers. I have maintained that containers cannot be missed. They cannot just vanish into thin air because of the paper trail that follows this whole process. So once we've given the relevant state institutions opportunity to do their investigations, if it's yielding results, I'm happy about it.
Who should take responsibility for this?
Anybody who's involved, anybody whose name pops up as being involved in assisting in this really unfortunate situation should be held responsible. I'm happy the minister has given his full assurance to Parliament and to Ghanaians that he's going to go the full haul to investigate. I, as a former deputy minister, unfortunately, I spent just 6 months at the ministry. I have indicated publicly that if they need any assistance from me, I'll be available. I'm sure I listened to the former managing director, ECG, Dubik, also making the assertion that he had not been initially contacted. If they feel he's coming and assist with the investigation, why not? I'm sure we are all for accountability, and anybody who's found culpable should be brought to book in accordance with the law.
Well, over 1,000 containers missing, and now we find electrical cables and other stuff in bushes and in areas that we do not even know about. These containers were procured under your watch, under your tenure, right?
This is, if you've watched and listened to my conversation all through, I don't want you to, of course, you reserve the right to ask any question, that's your choice. But I don't want the question to be tilted when procurement was done, when, at what point, under which political part. Criminality is criminal. It's as simple as it doesn't matter under whose regime it occurred or not. I, as a deputy minister of energy, I do not micromanage the ECG. Can be very clear that this whole procurement process took place under the guidance of an institution that is governed by a management and a board. So I think we should allow the processes to unfold. As I said, we as political appointees, we are prepared to assist. I've listened to them. He's very categorical. He's not interested in when it was done and when it was not done. If it was done under our time and it was done wrongly, those involved should be punished. It's as simple as that.
Okay, fine. We move away from this incident, but were there incidents like this reported under your tenure?
It did not, to my knowledge, when I spent 6 months at the ministry.
Moving forward, how should issues like this be handled, especially with procurement, oversight of equipment that belongs to the Electricity Company of Ghana?
Well, I'm happy that the minister initially put up a committee, and the report from the committee was what elicited these revelations. Things like this, and it comes, we learn things from. We are told that the procurement department was met with the estate department, right? Is that how it's supposed to be? Maybe this particular incident will help us restructure some aspects of ECG's operations. Last week, I realized the minister, having assumed office, also set up a committee to look at the possibility of privatizing some aspects of ECG solutions. Is this the way to go? I'm sure when the document comes to Parliament, we will have an opportunity to interrogate it and give our recommendations. My point is that the rules must be followed. I'm sure if all the rules were followed, we get where we are at this particular point in time. So such information gives us an idea of the wrong that occurred, and then how best we can also prevent a reoccurrence of such issues.
Well, should there be a public audit into the operations of ECG, in relation with what's happening currently? What
is happening is even more than a public audit. I'm told the minister is trying to set up a committee to look into the operations of ECG, in particular with regards to procurement. I'm all for it. If the minister thinks that he needs an independent body, it may be the audit service. I'm told that he has formally sent a complaint to the Auditor General to look into issues and see whether there's a possible prosecution to be done. If he wants an independent audit company, just like PwC and KPMG to do also an audit, why not? I'm all for it. What I want is for us to get to the bottom of it. Containers are not like papers that can just fly around. It goes through certain processes at the port. Who was in charge at the port at the time? We know the vessel number. We know all the containers are serialized. They have serial numbers. The equipment in them are known. The clearing agent is known. The consignee is ECG. It could not happen that the containers would just vanish into thin air. And that is why the revelations are coming out. Because from the paper trail, you are able to know where the containers landed to. And that is why the security agencies are giving us all this information. So, yes, I'm all for.
Right. Thank you so much. Collins Admakun Mensah is a former Deputy Energy Minister. Away from that, at Siru Basic School in the Wild West District, classrooms have become a danger zone. Snakes and scorpions attack both pupils and teachers, while the straw classrooms offer little protection. Yet the children keep showing up determined to learn. Emmanuel Juvenu has more in our education series, Crumbling Start.
Siru is a small rural community in the Wild West districts of the Upper West region. Children here love to learn. Their thirst for knowledge is unquenchable, but the school they attend is a reflection of the challenges they face daily.
We don't have a school structure, so most of the classrooms sit under trees. We construct huts almost every time for people to sit and study. Then we don't have much desks for the pupils. As a result of that, some of the students have to sit on the floor since there are no desks for them to sit, and that one creates a lot of discomfort for both the teacher and the learner.
Siru Basic School lacks classrooms and unsafe school grounds. The school is also not benefiting from the National School Feeding Program.
The community during the rainy season have to contribute some foodstuffs, then maybe some cash to buy some of the perishable foodstuffs so that they can prepare for the school.
The situation has forced the community members to help. Every day, different members of the community step in to cook, donating what they can from their farms. Today, 2 women from the village have volunteered to cook yam and stew for the children. The meal is simple, but for these children, it is a lifeline. Without it, many would not have the energy to stay in class.
Today is quite a happy day for them, so because they will get something to eat. On the menu, we have boiled yam and stew. But if the school foodstuffs finish, we have to wait for another rainy season or harvest season again And during those times, most of our people stop coming to school because they come to school, they are hungry, and that one, how can a hungry child learn? So he or she will prefer staying in the house so that the child he or she can get food to eat. So during those times, our enrollment goes down drastically. This bowls is for the meal they are preparing. The community is preparing for the people. Thank God we have contributed some tubers of yam, and it's enough to prepare for the people for today. So we have a volunteer cook to come and do the cooking for them. So today is quite a happy day for them. So because they will get something to eat.
The physical environment of the school is relatively unsafe. Kindergarten 1, 2 and Primary 1 pupils share one classroom. Primary 5 and 6 are crammed into a half-roofed pavilion. Whenever it rains, classes are suspended as water floods their classrooms.
Here we are now. If it is raining, we can't sit. We have to close and go home. So if assuming it's rain like for 3 days, we have to be in the house for 3 days. We can't come to school because of the building. We don't have any.
On a typical raining day, we actually let the children go home because we can't accommodate all of them here. You can see that the only classroom is this, then that one. And when it's raining heavily, because of the heavy pour, people cannot even sit here. So we tell them to go home so that we can assume classes the next day.
But the danger doesn't end there. The classrooms, built with straws and rudimentary materials, have become a haven for reptiles. Snakes, scorpions, and other creatures share space with the pupils, making every day a gamble with nature.
The environment is not child-friendly, to be frank. Every now and then, teachers and pupils are chased out of the class by snakes. We have an incident. A snake have to chase a teacher in the class out there from the mango tree. Then even the main class, a snake have to chase myself and my people. It fell right from the ceiling. So we had to cool down. It ran into a bag that I kept there. Then we ran out. Then the male teachers came and killed it. And it has been happening often. It has been happening often. So it is just God.
We are trying to fix our structure. So all of the size, it's one of the sticks. So I just had this thing. So when I checked, it was a scorpion. But as we are sitting down, we sit small time, we look around when there's something coming. So if you don't look around and then to make sure that there's maybe to check whether something is coming, the time we realize a snake will be in the classroom. So as we are sitting like this, but we are not comfortable. So we are sitting and then we look. Small time we'll just check around whether there's something coming or there's nothing coming.
Despite the constant threats, the teachers and pupils persist. Their resilience is rooted in the love for learning. But even the most passionate desire to study cannot overcome such dire conditions.
They love school. They love school. Schooling days, you see them, they come in a group. When I was coming, I saw people far, they come from the far end. They come, they move house to house, gather. Then when they come alone, that's what alone gives me joy. I feel I'm making an impact. If your impact is not positive, you wouldn't see any child here. But immediately it's daybreak, the children are here. So that one alone motivates me not to also give up or not to be down-spirited by that.
Siru Basic School needs the attention and support of a wider community, the government, donors, and citizens alike.
They're also part of Ghana, and they also need a structure to live on. As we are here, it's a rainy season. As they are sitting down, they are feeling cold. The weather is not all that friendly, so we are managing, especially Harmattan season, for instance. The wind is always blowing, and we are here, and they are always feeling cold. So 2 or 3 days, I want to say, well, I'm not feeling well, so the person has to go home. Or when they come to class like this, last week, for instance, one was vomiting because of the weather. So he came and then she was vomiting.
Challenges are just sometimes out of hand, but we manage what we have.
Siru Basic School's cry for help is not just a call for infrastructure. It is a call for the future of Ghana's children. The time to act is now. Emmanuel Jivenu, Joy News, Siru, Wa West District, Upper West Region.
Well, how are authorities responding to this? We have Amos Jitu. He speaks for the GS in the Upper West region. We're grateful for your time here on News Desk. Well, snakes and scorpions, that really presents a health and security risk. Are you aware of this?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, Mamiesi. Let me say good morning to your cherished viewers. Officially, this report hasn't come to the office. But we have no doubt that what the people who spoke to you talked about. There's a background to this. The school is a community initiative that they started running on their own, and as you saw, the structure is not very good. But they were under the support of Food for Life, until the engagement that Food for Life had with the community. Then the attention of management was drawn to this good initiative that is the community has actually embarked on. Then the district director took the initiative to post teachers to the school. So it's possible that a lot of these things would have happened at the time that GES had not officially taken over the school. But since it's been taken over, we have not received any reports to that effect. But it is very likely because of the nature of the structure that they have.
How long have you been there or taken over the school in the area?
Oh, in the last academic year.
Recently?
Yes, sir.
So what then can you do to, take care of this? Really, for a teacher to be teaching and then stop, watch around her to ensure that there are no snakes and scorpions must be very disheartening, to say the least.
Yes, it is. It is disheartening. And Zero is not the only school suffering this. It is just a tip of the iceberg. This is what a lot of our schools go through just to ensure that learning outcomes are improved. When the attention of the district office was drawn to this, apart from having supplied some teachers to the school to take up teaching duties, the district assembly, the Wild West District Assembly, was also written to notifying it of the existence of this school and appealing for a befitting structure for it. The director is also encouraging the immediate stakeholders within the community and across the district to come to the aid of this school. You know that Ghana Education Service, we are not into provision of infrastructure. So it has to take other stakeholders that the management is talking to ensure the school gets a befitting structure.
Do you think that the facility should be at least shut down or the children be transferred to another place, at least for their safety? What can be done immediately?
The immediate thing will be to encourage the community to come in, maybe clear around and put in some immediate measures to ensure that the invasion of these reptiles is actually stopped. It will be very difficult for GES to do anything immediately with respect to the provision of infrastructure. Now, it will not be fair to the welfare of the children to think that the school should shut down. If it shuts down, it means they have to commute. The nearest school will be about more than 4 kilometers. And children in the KG, about 33 of them in the school, will have a difficulty commuting on daily basis to that. Now, we also feel that infrastructure is not the only requirement for people to learn. So we can manage the situation as we have it now with the presence of teachers and the community around to support get rid of these reptiles so that the children are not deprived of education only because of the absence of infrastructure.
So
this invasion is actually worrisome.
Have you gotten in touch with any of the community leaders, to take initiative, at least get something done. I'm very worried about the situation that children are trying to get an education, and the situation in which they find themselves very deplorable to start with, and now they are in danger of being bitten or in a health situation because of what they're going through. How soon? What can be done?
Yeah, so some discussion is ongoing with the critical stakeholders at the Assembly, the Office of the Member of Parliament, and a few people, so that we can deal with this issue almost immediately. I'm sure it will be done. Schools are just about closing. I'm sure before the third term starts, something significant would have been done to ensure that they have a safe environment for learning.
We're grateful for your time, Amos Jitu. He is in the Upper West region, giving us updates of the situation in Siru Basic School. Now, moving on, the Ghana Federation of Disability is asking for new partnerships and a clear roadmap to ensure disability inclusion moves from promise to practice. The Ghana Federation of Disabled made a strong and strategic presence at the just-ended Global Disability Summit 2025 held in Berlin, Germany. Now let's engage them on this more, and I have in the studio with me Emmanuel Lai, Acting Director, Ghana Society of the Physically Disabled, and also Yao Ofori Deborah. He's former president of the Ghana Federation of Disability Organization. You're welcome, gentlemen, to our desk.
Thank you, Marie.
And this event at Germany, how was it? Was it your first time there, or is something you've been doing often?
Okay, the Global Disability Summit started as far back as 2018,
right?
And it was hosted by Kenya and the United Kingdom. Then 2022, it was hosted by Norwegian government and the government of Ghana. And that time, because of the prevalence of COVID, it was done virtually.
Okay.
So this one was also co-hosted by the government of Jordan and Germany, the government of Germany, all along with International Disability Alliance, which is the representative voice of persons with disability across the group.
Right. And how was the experience in Berlin?
The experience was very rich because you get all actors in disability management gathered together at one place to actually understand the situation from one nation to another, from one region to another. And as a matter of fact, you are getting access to global information about disability. Then from there, you are able to distinguish between what is happening at the level of your country and what is happening at other countries. Right. And you'll be able to tell whether you are doing well at your national level or you are lagging behind. Yeah.
Well, Mr. Lai, let me hear from you. From where he stopped, what are we lacking from your experience in Berlin that we can, bring to Ghana to replicate?
What you are lacking there? There are many. Okay. For instance, government funding. Yes. Funding is not forthcoming. And then government implementation of policies. Most of the policies that we have, we are getting to a stage of government approval. For instance, the disability bill, for instance, right. Employment equity bill. We are getting to a stage whereby government has to pen
signature to
yes.
the president.
It is not done. And those ones are policies that will aid the disability community to move forward. One that's not done, it is worrying. Yeah.
Well, you say you want to move from promise to practice.
Yes.
In which ways are you, intending to achieve this?
One of the ways is to keep on advocating for government to be pragmatic about the promises that they have made. We, as organization, try as much as possible to do advocacy work. So we will engage governments continuously. For instance, we have parliamentary caucus now. First, it was not there on disability. It is now a caucus on disability. We engage them, and then we see how it goes.
Well, when was the last time you engaged them, really? Was it before Berlin, or when you returned, you have reached out to find out what's happening?
No, when we returned only just this Sunday.
Oh.
And so we have not had opportunity of engaging government yet. But still, we will engage them yet. Again, a change of government has brought some changes into factory. Government itself are not finished forming its government yet. So we intend to engage them. We have engaged government in a way. The budget that was read, we highlighted the points to see whether our inclusion is part of it. We have engaged the Minister of Transport. We have engaged the Deputy Chief of Staff. So we are engaging, and definitely we will engage the government fully on the issues.
Well, I was hoping to hear from the Berlin experience practical things that you saw that you think could be replicated in Ghana. What are some of the things in your interactions with your counterparts up there?
Okay. I must indicate here that Ghana is not doing so bad when it comes to disability management. For example, when you come to Ghana, we have disability policy and legislation.
Yes.
We have educational opportunities. As we are talking now, from kindergarten up to university level, the doors are open for enrollment of persons with disability. And if you go to various universities or tertiary institutions today, go to Winnipeg, go to Legon, go to Cape Coast, wherever, you got youth with disability having opportunity to acquire academic and professional training. And when it comes to employment, in fact, at least we have a number of persons with disability working in all sectors of the economy, except that there are a whole lot of persons with disability, for example, who have completed and yet they are yet to gain employment. And this is one of the things that, one of the issues that we are seeking to address with government. And we are happy that the president did indicate in his State of the Nation address that he is going to ensure that 5% or a percentage of recruitment, public recruitment, yes, is reserved for persons with disability. Then he also made a promise that they are going to ensure free tertiary education for students with disability. So when we went there, we also shared the positive aspects of disability management in Ghana. Okay. And what we also realized is that technology is playing a very significant role in alleviating disabling conditions. Right. But these technologies are very costly. Okay. And we need government and corporate Ghana to support us acquire, because as soon as you get some of these technologies to support your life, in fact, it will lessen your dependence on people. For example, today we have blind people using computers.
Right.
And all that they need is acquisition of computers, and then they are fitted with speech devices to allow them do everything on their own without calling on anybody for support. When it comes to mobility, you see, anybody who is mobility disabled, they need wheelchairs of higher grade. For example, we have electronic wheelchairs. They have to be supported, because now the wheelchairs that they are using, they have to be pulled by other people. And sometimes when they are also doing it, they do it with physical exertion, which is not good. Meanwhile, we have electronic ones that they can manipulate.
It's easy for them
exactly.
to be mobile.
But there are so many technologies that is alleviating the conditions of disability, and yet, because of the cost, we are not. Today, previously, as a blind person, we had to write. For example, if I want to communicate with you, I have to write in Braille, get somebody to use the pen to transcribe it before you can read. Today, I pick my phone, and I'm with the aid of the speech device, I'm able to communicate on WhatsApp, on email, without
any assistance from anyone. Well, let's wrap up this conversation. Mr. Lai, if you saw the president today, what would you tell him? What would you address to him for what would you want him to address immediately?
If I see the president and I have a table with him.
One-on-one with President John Dramani Mahama.
One of the things he has to do is to assent to the disability bill. Everything that we are talking about is in there.
Right.
Yes. So it should assent to the disability bill.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming to our desk. And you heard that Emmanuel Laye, Acting Director for Ghana Society of the Physically Disabled, and also Yao Ofori Deborah, former President, Ghana Federation of Disability Organization, here on News Desk. We'll take a break. We'll return with business.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to business. My name is Darrell Kwao. The Ghana Maritime Authority has expressed concern about incursions being recorded in the last 2 years in areas considered safe zone for FPSO and other strategic oil and gas platforms. The authority, in a bid to help protect these oil and gas assets within Ghanaian waters, has embarked on stakeholder engagements over security threats to these assets. Director General of the authority, Kamaldeen Ali, disclosed this after engaging fisheries stakeholders in Tema.
Fisheries Association of Ghana, NAFAG, is of prime importance to Ghana Maritime Authority. This comes on the back of security risk posed by continuous breach of legislations that create safe zones for oil and gas platforms. The authority maintains meeting leadership of NAFAG, chief fishermen, and other stakeholders within the space is one of the means of helping reduce incursion into areas considered safe zone for oil and gas platforms. Here is the Director General of Ghana Maritime Authority, Kamaldeen Ali.
One of them is the safety and security of our offshore oil and gas platforms. The FPSO and other platforms at sea are very important strategic assets, but they are also equally open to security risk. It is for this reason that the Ghana Maritime Authority, the Ministry of Transport, working with Parliament, the government of Ghana has created legislations that provide for safety zones of the oil and gas offshore infrastructure. There has been incursions into those safety zones, and the incursions have increased or are increasing over the period. A single incursion is a matter of major security risk for the offshore oil and gas. And when you have multiple of them, they have increased in manifold in the last 2 years. That is a major security concern.
Kamaldeen Ali says the authority is much concerned about piracy.
We also took the opportunity on the vessel side to start discussion that will enhance the safety and security of our fishing vessels. You would have heard that there has been a piracy incident, so we want to interact more to see why, when vessels are at sea, some of the things we can collectively do to ensure that they are safe at sea, to avoid such or limit such occurrences. There are other ancillary issues that have been not discussed in full that we have highlighted, including the salaries and working condition of seafarers. So these are the other issues that we have put on the table for discussion, and then we'll engage further on those issues.
Meanwhile, President of Ghana National Canoe Fishermen Council, Jojo Solomon, is happy the authorities are engaging stakeholders on the situation at hand. Jojo Solomon, who doubles as president for NAFAG, says the association will play its part in sharing intelligence with security agencies.
Fishers are always, fishing within the FPSO zone. You understand, it's a safety zone. You are looking at the value of the oil rig. Fishers are not supposed to go there, and therefore they are always going there because the light is attracting the fish, and there's a lot of fish. So the temptation of fishers going there, and it's also not properly or visibly marked, and therefore some of the fishers, whether by mischief or not, will tell you that they don't know that they are within the 500 meter cordon of zone where fishers must not enter. So I think there's a lot of work to be done, around the oil rig as well for fishers to also, keep their distance.
NAFAG says the visit by Ghana Maritime Authority is the beginning of a lasting relationship that will help secure Ghana's maritime space.
All right, and that's it for the segment. Back to you, Mamisi.
And that's how we wrap up today's desk. I am Mamisi Nyamiche Thompson. There's more news on myjoyonline.com.